We're going to do a quick overview of my layout templates and how I use them. Now, this stuff changes so fast that it's hard to make a new video every time we've got to change. But hopefully this one lasts long enough that we get some ideas out of this on how to use these templates. So let's just kick into Chief Architect. We got brand new layout templates here have been updated. Let's just go, and I need to associate them. So that's kind of the first step. Get into Edit Preferences, get into our new plans, okay? And if you're on a Mac, that's just the Apple logo and then Preferences. So get into New Plans and then Layout Template. We're gonna browse and locate a layout template. And for me, it's gonna be in Templates. And I actually need to go locate that template. It's actually in the purchase link. So find it in the purchase link. I'd say download it. That's a good way of doing it. I'm going to get into my shop, my layout templates in the layout files folder itself. I like to use D in this case. I'm just going to copy this and go back a few levels. And that way I can just paste it into templates. And there we go. I get to pick that as my new default template. Press OK. That way, when I say just new layout, there we go. Now, it's going to find my files because they're in the templates folder with it, okay? But it may not find your files. So you would need to associate this with new files, okay? And so in my toolbars, if you have my toolbars, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen right here, that's going to be relinking plan files. And then you're going to locate the plan files that you need to modify, okay? Once those are located, one, you've got an AB plan, which stands for as built, and the next plan is the template plan. But you should be associating this with a plan file that has a -n in it for new. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to create a new plan file. So Control N, just a new plan file, and I'm going to save this as, and I'm going to just put this in a temporary location, test -n. And what that -n does, just so you can see this in format, that -n tells the Pro Layout to label things a certain way, okay? So that when I kick back in here and I hit that reference plan files and then I locate that template file, I'm going to replace it with that new, okay, that -n, all right? Let me press OK. Let me show you what that did specifically. On the fourth page, it says proposed first story. It knows that only because of that -n. Otherwise, it would just say first story. If it has -ab, it's going to show existing as a prefix, all right? So there's a few times where this comes up, and it's very helpful for annotating very quickly when you're in a remodel workflow. If you're not in a remodel workflow, right off the bat, look at this, new construction, delete this page. It's easy enough. We get over on the right-hand side, click this delete button. In fact, we're going to delete twice because we've got another page, right? So we can go ahead and ignore this or just say yes. Are we sure we want to delete it? This is going to bring us to a second existing story, all right? Let's hit that again. There we go. So now we've got our proposed first story floor plan. Now let's get back to the general page and just note a couple things. Now this is the D layout. We will take a look at the A, B, and C layouts as well, but I want to show you how we use the revision tool that's built into this. So we're on revision number 1, and how this tool works is I'm going to go ahead and say that I've got a revision on this standards general. So I can click on this and I can do a cloud right from here, or you can just use the cloud tool, which we've got this in the toolbars right over here. We can cloud anything we want. Remember that you can break a cloud as well. So using the break tool, we can break and shape a cloud if you'd like. So I've got this standards general wrapped around. I like to concentrically resize this a little bit. And sometimes I even like to change this so that I have a number of arcs that's real tight, something like 100 or something like that. There you go. This is looking pretty good. Now I'm going to take this revision, populate it over here, and then I've got a new step I need to do. I need to get into my project browser, okay? And I want to get into CAD details, and I'm going to right click and do new CAD detail. And notice it prompts us, what's that CAD detail called? Well, guess what? I'm going to say revised standards. And in fact, I'm even going to say the label that it's on, okay? G1 revised standards. Press OK. Now that creates a new CAD detail. I'm going to shut this window down. That's not important. What's important then is I'm going to take this call out right here, and in my toolbar I'm going to relink the view. And so I'm going to find that new revised standards CAD detail that I just generated and link it to that. What does that do? Well, if you double click on plan check comments here, and it's only on this page, what it brings us to is a plan check comment sheet where it's actually building a plan check comments. So you can see here, here's that revised standards. Now in future, I'm going to give you a macro that you can execute to clear the global hash of all stored macro values. What this was a global value, so that if you change your mind and relink it to a different CAD detail, or you delete some CAD details, there's no way for us to reset that. So you'd actually have to close down Chief and reopen it. It's not the worst thing in the world. It works. What the convenience part of this is that it generates a list of things that you're revising, and it's in layout where we aren't bound by the layout box for our display of our cloud. So that's the reason I like this particular implementation of it. So that's how that system works. You can do as many revisions as you like. It's really simple. We can, of course, make a new CAD detail. We'll do it one more time just to show you. I made a new CAD detail, and this is testing this CAD detail. And then I'm going to shut that window down, copy this call out, and then relink it. Now let's say that this is revision 2. Well, you're actually going to have to get into text macro management for this. Unfortunately, there's no way around that. So we're going to get into text macro management over here on the left hand side, and then this particular one is part of, let's see, plan checker. And so in plan checker, if we double click it, you can see here at the bottom of the screen is 1. Well, this is going to be revision R2 in this case, okay? Oops, I didn't quite change it. Let's edit that again. Let's make this R2. There we go. Press OK. And notice that the callouts changed to R2. Simple enough. So let's go ahead and kick through this. Let's take a look at some other things. Notice that the page index, this shows our page label, and it also shows our page description. So that if we get over here on the right-hand side, edit page information, here's our page label. This is an old trick built into Chief Architect. If we put a prefix plus a dash and the number sign, any like label with this will auto order based on that number sign being present. So here's where my title is general plot and project. And then in description, this is what I use for scale on all of the templates. So in description, you might say something like, in this case, it's a, let's see, 1 inch equals 10 foot. Is that what I'm thinking of here? Something like that. All right. And that might show down wherever there is a plan scale. And in this case, it looks like I've got that missing. Oh, there it goes. Just needed to be refreshed. So that's where we put a plan scale. Notice that we've got floor plan and then plan scale. Again, we're going to populate that. Now also notice that the client information is missing. All right. So that means we actually have to get into our pro plan. And then in our pro plan, especially if you're in the working plan view, you're going to have right up here a quick link to project information. In project information, if you didn't already know this, you can always get your information right here. All client information is input in Tools, Client, Design Information. So we'll go Tools, Design, Client Information, get to the Client Information panel, John Smith, etc. on 123 Orange Street in Oakland, CA. 94605, etc. Notice that the fax number is also our parcel number. So fax number is 123-456-789. And then our scope of work is coming from phone number 2. Just kitchen and like, etc. Whatever you want to type there. So now that we have this, we can shut down this view. And what we're going to see is this actually populates in our client information. This does this for every single different layout that we've got. So populates down there. That's perfect. So let's go to the next page. But before we do, I want to copy this page. Okay, so this is my proposed first story floor plan. Now let me actually get into this proposed first story floor plan, and I'm actually going to build a new floor. So I'm going to go Alt B, and then floors is O, and then we're going to do build new floors and derive new second floor from floor plan. Let me just get past that. And now I can shut this down. And now I have a second story. So I'm going to take this plan view and I'm going to orient it on the screen so that it's exactly where we want. So I'm going to hit my pan scale layout box and move this around so that it's placed perfectly. Depends on where you drew it, right? So let's say now I've got it set up the way I want it. I'm going to copy this, bring it forward, paste hold position, open it up, and associate it with the second floor now, okay? Now we'll notice that proposed second floor, there we go. So while I've got that copy, let me go ahead and bring this forward. I'm going to actually put up a foundation plan right here so I can paste hold position. Same thing, I can open this up, we can relink it. We'll find the foundation plan in this case, press OK. Let me bring this forward. Maybe I'm also paste holding here, open this up, relink this view. And in this case, I might want the framing roof plan, and we just need to make sure that it's associated with the correct floor. It is. Let's press OK. And that didn't quite build correctly, and sometimes it's on the wrong floor, right? So we've got to associate with that floor above. So you might have to go up a floor and make sure that you hit Save Active View, right? So now that's associated correctly, and come into the electrical paste hold one more time. Let's edit this. We're going to relink to that electrical plan, and this is where you're going to do a first story and second story electrical plan as well. So it does in fact see that it's an electrical plan and knows that it needs to put first story. Now a couple updates in this pro layout. One is I put a new standards electrical. You need to review this for your county, make sure that it's applicable for you. And then I also put just a little detail in here where I'm showing my finished floor height to certain outlets, and you might want to edit that as well. So keep that in mind. Keynotes electrical populates here, also the electrical legend. Oftentimes the electrical legend will span much greater on this page, so make sure you edit that as necessary. All right. Now I'm going to switch to this cross-section details section, okay? And this is where we've got our stackable details. And so if you don't know how this system works, sometimes we've got to initialize these details. So let me go back a few and let's just open up a plan view. And then I want to get into my project macro designations from a working plan view. And let's go down a level. Here we go. So project macro designations, if these are not populated with items, and they should be, sometimes you've got to double click this if they're not initialized and just press OK. All right. So let me close this down. Now close this one down as well. And I can get back into that page where we've got stack details, and notice all of our information is now there. And this is where you can relink a particular view and scroll through your editable details for some other view or some other detail that might work for this setup. And there you go, very quickly getting some stack details built out. I've got a brand new one here. We'll relink just to show it. So this is our post. Let's see. And I've got a new one with a support tie. So that's with the support tie. And sometimes you've got to put one in front of the other, so you got to change that draw order. So here's where we're going to edit that draw order right there and bring this forward a level. There we go. And that fixed this little detail. And you might need to change some of the offsets for the labels themselves. Now in the Pro plan, these labels come from our labels in our plan here. And notice in the plan, we've got a prefix detail space dash space, so that if you want to add a CAD detail to this, please keep in mind that space dash space is being searched for by the label convention so that it omits everything before that space dash space, which is how we're getting these framing labels. So if you've got something where you're going to want a call out involved with this, make sure to copy this detail and relink it with that item with the call out. Same thing, if we go to our page 1, these things don't have a call out associated with them. In fact, they have a label that's offset. If we look at our label itself and we get into this automatic label, notice its reference is top center and it's offset -1/4 inch, which is very different from, say, one of these plan views where we open up this label and we're going to see it's using a call out in some cases, but also it's referencing bottom center and it's only got an X offset. So depending on what you want to send to view, I would say copy a correct element that has a similar setup, such as the schedules. If we open this up, we're going to notice suppress label is checked. Okay, so a couple different conventions here within this pro layout. Now in the window order sheet, it might be that your project is quite large and you might have to rescale this. The labels on this window order sheet are automatic. If you've got the pro plan, they change from, if it's a remodel workflow, it's going to show not applicable on these windows that are existing, and they're existing set by their energy values. Okay, so if we went in here and grabbed this window, copied it over, and then edited the energy values outside of allowed values in California, and you might have to edit that for yourself. Notice it switched to not applicable. Of course, that's different from just the floor plan view where they switch their label convention, and you can see the prefix here existing versus no existing on this one. So a couple things to note there. You can go ahead and pan and scale this as need be, and then you might have to chop up this window order in a way where maybe we're just chopping it just to this portion right here, and then copy, paste, hold, expand this, drop this back down, bring this back, and maybe that's just a single row item where then you copy and then point to point, okay? And then you would expand that next section, right? So expand the next section, do a point to point back. So that's a way we can kind of do this and then get rid of or cut out or crop this section, crop things as you need to. So we could crop this section and then take this layout box and expand it out, something like that. So a couple different ways you can edit these in order to fit all of your window schedule items on the screen. Also keep in mind for anything that you've got in here, anytime you want a very strong border, you can open this up, get into the line style panel, and layout box borders off is by default a blank line style. So you can scroll this down and switch to a thick line style. That's going to put a thick border around that layout box. So then you're going to want to crop this specifically to exactly around your element in order to box that out and make that a strong box, okay? So let's get to our elevations now. Our elevations aren't always aligned. So sometimes, even though this might be linked to the appropriate view, you might want to relink. And in the relink menu here, I want you to notice something. Keep layout box contents position when relinking. In this case, we don't want to do that. I'll show you when we always want to have this clicked. But in this case, I don't want to do that because I want it to auto figure out how to center that view. And so when I relink, there we go. It populated and centered my view based on that relinking. That's really important, right? That helps us out. A time when we don't want to do that is when we're copying a particular detail, because when we copy this detail and then link it to something new, it's going to move and we don't want it to move. So in this case, if we have that unchecked and I click a different detail, it might be that it moves it a little bit if it wasn't drawn perfectly, all right? So in this case, I want to undo that, I want to relink, and then I want to make sure that I've got keep layout box contents position when relinking, and there we go. Now this is a double wide, so that's perfect because it relinked according to the far left-hand corner, whereas otherwise it would have tried to center the view. It's a perfect example. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the other layouts. All right, let me open a layout. Let's get to our templates. Here's our layout A. Okay, this is a very traditional looking title block as we go through it. Some of these elements are just moved around. That's all that's happening here between the different layouts. Let's go ahead and open up another layout. Let's do our layout B. B is a very non-traditional layout, kind of graphical in a way. I get a lot of comments on this one, so people like this one when they see it in the building department or on the job site. Let's just try our Alt File menu, open layout as U. So There we go. And then our layout C is a little tricky. It's got a few elements that are a little bit different. So there's actually a center line here, and that's the center line of this side marker here. And then as you scroll through, the details page has a second template page where it breaks this line in case you need to do a full wide. So in this case, you'd get back into that edit page information, and in the subsequent menu, you would scroll down to page 1 as opposed to the default page template. So that's when it's going to break this line, but keep our naming conventions intact. So something to note there for that particular one. Other than that, that's it. Kind of gone through the layout as quickly as I could. You might need to slow that video down and check it out again. And if you got any questions, let me know. I'm happy to hear it.